Welcome to the K-Drama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive. And we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the K-Drama Show with Ashley and Kim. I didn't mute the last one, so you heard it through the headphones. Dude, when I tell you my soul about left my body.
Same. I just heard that and I was like,
I'm so glad you were here though, because if I'd been down here alone, I would have peed my pants.
I don't blame you.
Thanks for keeping my things charged while we record. Because my things tend to die a lot.
I have to have chargers with me all the time.
All of my charging cables were like 8 years old.
So it's time to
I finally
refresh.
bought a new one because the old one was literally hanging on by a thread. I don't know.
Was that the one that I used?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was.
It was rough.
I was a little scared.
When you buy the black one, it's like $8. When you buy the white one, same exact material. It's not the Kevlar. $12.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that stupid?
Yeah.
And it's not even the Apple brand. It's the Target brand of it. Isn't that stupid? Now, the ones with Kevlar were like $25. It was ridiculous.
Why is everything so expensive?
We were just talking about how they used to have $5 footlongs
At Subway.
There
was a song.
$5 footlong, any foot long. And I paid $13 for a footlong today. Thank you very much. By the way,
Maddening.
if you ask for a footlong and say that you don't want cheese on half of the footlong because your daughter can't have milk, they'll say, no, sorry, you have to pay for an extra 6-inch sandwich. So rather than spend $12 for the footlong, you have to pay $8 per 6-inch for a $4 difference. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
That's even worse. I just heard my father right there.
Oh,
I may have heard that speech a few times
in
my life.
All right. So today we have no theories. We have no tea. We do have tissue.
We have a box. If you've never watched this show before, the last 4 episodes, 3 episodes, 4 episodes, because 13, right?
13, yes.
So 13 is a rough one. 15 can be. The beginning of 14 is. Because the end of 13 is. 16 will destroy you. In the best way and worst way possible.
No, just the worst way possible. There's no best here.
But we love the show so very much. And I actually wondered if I had ruined our friendship because of this. I was a little scared.
Yeah, I sent you a very strongly worded all caps text.
I got called a liar.
Said with all the love in the world.
So there might be some cringy laughing just to avoid the sad.
That's why we're going into it giggling. But recap. Let's jump into episode 16. You want to kick us off?
Sure, I can. So, we ended last episode and Goblin has officially asked EunTak to marry him.
Yeah.
And she smiles and she touches his face and she tells him, I will be the bride of this lonely man. I will be the first and last bride of this radiant man. I will surely be. And so he actually just kisses her on the forehead, which is such a sweet gesture. And so she's sitting outside her apartment that evening, kind of in the little garden area, and she's looking at the sky and she's talking to her mom. She's like, Mom, I'm getting married and I'm gonna live happily. This is everything that we've wanted. And so her ghosty friend is behind her with another little ghost and, comments, oh, she must have found the goblin now. They're gonna get married. This is gonna be good. And EunTak kind of stops and she spins around and just goes, Uni? And she can see ghosts again. And her ghosty friend is so excited because it's been so long since they've talked. She really did care about her.
Like a decade.
Yeah, it had been a decade. And so she's like, you're getting married and it's going to be so great and I'm so excited for you. But then at the same time, she's hugging EunTak and she goes, how about you come with me? And EunTak's just like, hold on a minute. Where's that bag of salt? Like, where's it at? But they just get to have like a really sweet moment of just catching up. But then we are at the tea shop and there are two men that are being served Oblivion tea. And one is very, very grateful. And he's just like, thank you so much. And the other one, he is a belligerent jerk. I can't believe that you're trying to serve me the same thing with this guy. Do you know what I'm worth? Do you see what this watch is? And da-da-da-da-da. And
this watch is worth more than his entire life.
Right. He is being abhorrent. And Reaper's just done. And he goes like, you know what? You're dead. What you have means absolutely nothing. If you look at your watch, the time has stopped. You can't take it with you. In my tea shop, everyone gets served the exact same thing. And frankly, if you don't want to drink it, then you're going to go down and you're going to have to face every single sin that you've ever committed. And just like...
shuts him up real quick.
He just kind of like... He like kind of shakes in fear a little bit because Reaper's...
Well, he even looks at his own hands like, what sins do I have in my life?
That I have done.
That I have, taken on.
And so...
Well, he says when you go through that door, you'll realize the power that your sins have, the ones you've committed with your eyes, with your tongue, with your hands, and your feet, and your heart. And he's just like, oh.
Well, I'm screwed.
And what level of hell they're going to drag you down to because of that. So, Goblin is waiting for EunTak to get out of work in the hallway. And as he's waiting there, he sees Lawyer Kim. He sees Lawyer Kim walking by him in the hallway. He remembers that this is the girl, or he sees like this vision of her saying, you know, why don't you go on a blind date, EunTak? You know, you're waiting around for this guy, but I know this young, really good-looking guy. He goes for older women. He's a chaebol. Like, you would really, like, just go. He's
not happy.
I did think it was DeokHwa when she was talking about him. And I was like, there's no way. Anyway, so he's over here like, blind dates. And he's just looking at her and he kind of makes a cut with his hands. And her bag strap falls and everything in her purse goes everywhere. Which if you're a woman and that happens, that is the single most like inconvenient thing that could happen. It really is of no consequence other than like
it ruins your day.
It kind of does. But after this happens, she's gathering her things, and Goblin like sticks out his tongue at her, like he's 3, and then she stands up and kind of he's like, why am I still standing here? Like, there's nobody else here. She's gonna ask me what just happened. So he just, like, sprints down the hallway. EunTak, which makes her turn around and look at him anyway. But he busts in the door into the recording area of the show. And everybody's just like, who are you and why are you here? And he just goes, I'm her boyfriend, and actually, I'm actually her fiance, if you want to be technical about it. And how about we get married this weekend? Saturday? Sunday? Which is better?
And then he winks.
And then he winks at her. And
EunTak.
I expected her to be, like, frustrated, but she's just, like, so smitten. She's just like...
But she panics.
I'm gonna go get dinner with my boyfriend now.
But she also panics because she spins around in her chair because she didn't see him come in, and she's just like...
Yeah. The sickness of the heart.
Crap.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
So they go to lunch, and they have this massive spread in front of them, and DeokHwa is actually going to be joining them because she has not greeted him yet, and especially if she's going to be part of the family now. I mean,
it needs to happen.
You have to meet family members. So DeokHwa comes in, and he's kind of just sits there, and he's like... Why am I eating with a couple? Why is there so much food? Like, So he said, he sits in, and Goblin's just like, yep, we're getting married. And EunTak just looks at him and he's just like,
Just gonna throw that out there, are we?
okay. And he just looks at EunTak and he's like, okay, what day? Do you want Saturday, Sunday? What time of day do you want? Do you want lunch? Do you want dinner? And DeokHwa is just like, actually, do it on Sunday. I prefer dinners because Saturdays are party days. And she just looks at Goblin and she's like, what are you doing this for? And he goes, this is so you don't go on a blind date with a young, rich, handsome chibble. And DeokHwa's like, oh, I'm the only one in the country that would meet that criteria. Don't worry, you're not my type. And then he introduces himself, hands her the business card. Mm-hmm. And she's
not
like,
the business
not the
card.
business card. And she's like, oh, he became a team leader? Like, she's proud of him. Like, you've accomplished some different things now. And she goes, I'm EunTak. And he goes, wait, are you the girl from here? Are you the one that had the letter? Are you the one from the chicken shop? Are you like... And she's just like, there's a lot of things that you still just don't know. And he's like, well, to get married, like, you have to know. She goes, yeah, I know your uncle's a goblin. And he's like, whoa, who is this woman? Like, how do you know these things? And so Goblin... Well,
she says to him, everyone knows at least one goblin, maybe two.
Maybe two.
Which is what he said to her in the bookshop.
Right, right. And so Goblin actually, like, tells her, he's like, if you do go on a blind date, and she just like, I'm going to be a married lady soon. And then we get this same little thing like he did when she called him my goblin or my mister to Reaper, and he just gets this like, she said that she's going to be, He's having a schoolgirl moment.
He is. It's cute.
And then, they just kind of have a nice lunch. And then we cut to DeokHwa and CEO Kim.
This is actually, I think, might be my favorite scene in this episode.
I agree.
Which is silly.
It is one of the best episodes. Wow.
It's the best character arc wrap-up.
And, in many K-dramas, I would even say.
Yeah, I like it.
I love it so much. So he tells CEO Kim, my uncle's getting married. And he's like, that's good. He's like, I'm going to get married too. And he's like, all right. I like it. He's like, I am going to get married before my uncle. And I'm going to have lots of kids.
Happening in 2 days.
Right. He's like, I'm going to have lots of kids. I'm going to make a lot of siblings. And he's like, yes, that'd be good. Like, I'd love for you to do that. You do know you can't get married alone, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, well, I have lots of girls. And he's like, yeah, you can't have a lot of that either.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue here.
That doesn't work. And he asks him, do you have someone that makes your heart beat when you think of her? Mm-hmm. That you tear up over, that you would die for? And DeokHwa's like, no. I mean, I don't, not that I know of. And then asks CEO Kim, he's like, have you ever thought about getting married? And he goes, I am married and I have 3 kids. And he's just like, how come I didn't know this information? Like, why didn't you tell me that? And he's like, because you don't ask questions. You don't care about the world around you or the people around you, their happiness, their sadness. And I'm just waiting for you to grow up and ask me those types of adult questions. Questions about the world, questions about the people around you. And DeokHwa just is like, thank you and like, wait for me and I'll grow up well. Like, I will do that. And it's just this, CEO Kim has become that father figure that DeokHwa has needed after his grandpa died. And Goblin's not really a father figure anyway. He's the older brother. He's the uncle. He's the
party uncle.
He's the party uncle.
The funkle.
The funkle. The fun uncle.
I just really appreciate, though, that CEO Kim and DeokHwa, honestly, you get what you get with those two. Yeah. Like, they've never had any kind of hidden agendas. I mean, DeokHwa when he was possessed, yeah. But
not his fault.
Not his fault.
He just wanted his card most of the time.
He just wanted his card back. Come on. But what you see is what you get. CEO Kim, he is there truly to protect the company for DeokHwa, to live out Shinu's wishes for the family, right? And never ambition beyond his scope of what he should be doing. And then DeokHwa is he's a very simple guy. Like, I like to enjoy my life. I like to look after the people that I'm loyal to. And
that's all I need.
All it is. But he's starting to see like the world in 3D a little bit more because of CEO Kim.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just love that. I mean, they could have their own spin-off and I'd watch the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Because I just love those characters so much.
They are just, yeah, it is one of the sweetest, and like, it's like a genuine moment that like.
It is.
Yes.
But I just sorry, I don't mean to talk over you, but I just love that CEO Kim is so loving. He's so loving to DeokHwa too. But he could be like, you're being really stupid, but he's just like, I'm just waiting for you to figure it out on your own, because that's the only way you're going to arrive here.
Right.
Is for you to figure it out on your own and be able to make these kinds of decisions as a CEO. This is what you have to do.
So I'm just waiting for you to grow up. And it's just a sweet moment too. That just, I mean, I know I've already said that, but I do love it. It's one of the best, you're right, character arc wrap-ups. You watch DeokHwa be this little punk who rented out his uncle's house for 60 years and get grounded and get punished, but he's gone through all of these really, really tough things as well, of losing his grandpa, especially when he wasn't actually told, and
that was heart-wrenching.
That was horrible. But and also like working from the ground up in his company. He's doing his job and he's getting promoted because he probably is. I mean, there's a reason you get promoted to team manager. You do a good job. But there's so much more that's outside of work that CEO Kim is like, hey, come over here. Figure this out. You can do it. I know you can.
Yeah.
I need you to.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like that biblical principle, like he who stewards a little well can be entrusted with more. So this is him learning how to steward what he has before he can take over the whole thing. Having a mentor, having a discipleship person in business, in whatever, to teach you, to lead you, to just be there. Clearly that's our favorite scene. So they're in a car and he's kind of getting chewed out. Yeah, he is. And she's just kind of like, why are we in the car? Where are we going? Right?
Well, yeah, because she's like, why are you continuing to tell people without, like, okaying it with me?
Oh, yeah, you're just, like, blurting out the fact that we're getting married.
like I'm happy about it, but, like, time and place, maybe?
Yeah, and in 3 days, cool. Or however many days.
And he's also being a backseat driver.
Oh, she's the one driving, that's right.
Yeah.
And she is, like, white-knuckling it because he's, like... Seeing you drive after all this time makes me really feel like you're an adult now or something like that, doesn't he?
Something.
And she's just like, what are you talking about? I'm a great driver. And she's like veering into the other lane.
Well, she's also looking at him.
But he's like, okay, well, we need to go to this place. And you need to stop like almost killing us on the way there. And she's like, okay, fine. And he goes, okay, I need you to take a left up ahead. And she's like, okay. And she turns on her right blinker. And she goes to, like, go right, and he's like, left, left, left. And she's like, yeah, totally. Look before you turn.
Well, I had a flashback to, like, when I was being taught how to drive, like, legally. I grew up on a farm. You learn when you're 5. There's a lot of things that you just kind of... but it would be more of learning how to drive a stick. And, stop. Ashley, you can't keep killing it like that. Well, if you'd stop yelling at me, I would be okay.
Killing it, not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
It.
Don't let off the clutch too quickly. I understand.
Don't dump the clutch. I learned when I was 18, 19, in my husband's Jeep.
I learned when I was 15 because my dad said it was a requirement. I was like, okay.
Honestly, it should be.
I agree. I think if you do not know how to drive a stick shift, you should not get a license.
I think that you at least need to know how.
You would respect a vehicle more.
You would respect a vehicle, but I'm just like, what if
awareness.
What if there's an emergency?
Oh, Oh, yeah.
And all you have is a car with a manual transmission, and then you can't go anywhere because you can't even start the stupid thing. Anyway, you're doing it right, Europe. Good job. Okay, so you won't hear me say that often. Just kidding.
Okay.
All right, so
Going to the left.
They've arrived to their destination, and we see EunTak is in this really beautiful, just simple dress.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of has like the sweetheart neckline, but it's covered in like tulle or something.
Like a shawl type thing that's added to the top.
It's just very becoming of her, and it perfectly fits her character to where it's not overly feminine, but it's still... It's
soft.
Yeah.
It's very soft. It's very flattering. It's
simple.
Whimsical.
Yeah, that's a good word for it, too. But the curtain draws, and we see Goblin is just like, fixing his cuffs, kind of moving his tux around.
Looking
and he
good.
Looks up, and it's just like awe hits his face. He sees her, and he's just like, this is my woman. This is it.
You're so pretty.
And we've talked about this like in our other season before, how this is kind of a cultural difference from how we do weddings in America.
Right.
First looks down the aisle, but they will go buy their garments together.
I kind of like that.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, yeah.
Then you can enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah, and I mean, then I'm okay with having private moments like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it makes them something special between you two.
Yeah.
Like, that was like my engagement was in my living room with like photo albums. Like, nothing flashy and, whatever, which would have like sent me into a straight panic. But, but, I just think that those moments are, anyway.
So precious.
Yeah, they are. But he's just like, you're so pretty. And then she's like, well, you look great too. And then she says something about like, when we get married, you should bring like the bowl of mystical water to add the...
Yeah, miracle water or something.
Yeah, to add to the, like, the mystery of our marriage. Or I don't even remember what it was.
I didn't write that one down. But it's still very cute.
Mm-hmm.
You need me to
jump in? She goes for the wedding gift if you want to. Okay.
Keep going. Go as long as you want.
You're like, I talked so much for the last one. But it's...
I told you I'm going to give you my computer at one point.
Stop. EunTak, she is shopping for a wedding gift for her husband-to-be, and she...
That was my straw.
Oh, it's like, did your elbow just unhinge or something? Kim's unhinged theories and Ashley's unhinged. Let me get my oil can out for the Tin Man over here.
I just popped, so go
Sorry.
ahead.
Okay. So, she's shopping for a wedding gift, and she selects this really classy-looking watch. He's like, "Is it for a special occasion?" She's like, "Well, it's a wedding gift, actually." And she writes this note for him, and leaves it next to the watch on Goblin's dresser, and says, "All the roads will walk together, all the sights will see together, all of the questions and answers that we'll share." What is it?
We'll ask and answer bashfully and passionately.
Bashfully and passionately, in all of these moments, I love you, your bride.
Aww.
So cute.
And that's when I go, wow, I'm really bad at writing if you can write something that pretty.
I really love hearing, so you can like watch shows with the dub, which is the audio that is English, or you can watch it with the subs, which is how I like to do it.
Preferred.
Because the rhythm and the poetry of hearing it in the original language is never going to compare to like
a
translating it. Because it is a bit awkward, but you can hear like the lilt of it and, like you said, the cadence of it in the original.
Just makes it so pretty.
It does. But like just a straight translation is always going to be a bit clunky because there is really no one-to-one translation. But Go ahead.
So at the radio station, one of the members in the recording room, not in the actual like room where the signal's being sent out, one of her members starts reading this letter that was sent in, and she starts reading it aloud, and EunTak is like, I know whose letter that is. She goes, this is my choice, like, read that letter aloud on air. And she runs out, Goblin hears it in the car, and he turns, and Reaper actually hears it in his room, and he grabs his coat and runs out the room, and it is Sunny's letter that she has written to Reaper. And so they're all running to try and find her now. And so EunTak, runs home, and she learns that Sunny has actually sold the building that they live in, and she's just moved away. Mm-hmm. She's up and gone. And the lady tells her, I even bought this building with your lease in it. Like,
that was the contingencies I keep you on as a tenant.
Right. And so she goes down the stairs, and she's a little bit shocked of, like, I wasn't, I know she said something about moving, but
didn't think literally this
didn't think
minute.
she would tell me where she's going. Mm-hmm. And she sees that Sunny has left her a letter that's telling her goodbye and to, live your life, be happy. And Goblin walks up and sees EunTak, and she's like starting to cry. And, that's when he learns, his sister remembered everything. And she's also left. And EunTak, asks Goblin, why did she leave? And Goblin tells her, she couldn't forgive. That's why, she chose not to see Reaper again. So that's why she left. And so Sunny is actually standing on the bridge. And she turns around and goes, okay, I'll leave after 50 people walk by. This is a thing that Sunny has done a lot. This is her routine. And so she's counting. She gets to 49, and we just hear 1, 2, 3, and it's Reaper, and he has started to count. And she tells him, I won't let you hear of my news, but in this life I won't see you again. And asks if she can hug him at least once. And so they hug each other, and they're both just crying. But she tells him, to be well, and he tells her farewell. So they're very different goodbyes happening. And then you just hear Reaper say in the background, I heard her news it was quite some time after that. But he's actually sitting on his bed, and he is just falling apart because he knows he's never going to see her again. And we see Goblin downstairs in the kitchen, and he kind of just looks up and shakes his head of just like, oh, man.
Been there, done that, man.
This is rough. And so he brings some snacks. He, with the apples, he cut them into little bunnies. And he's like,
I touched this repulsive food for you.
You have to eat it now. But Reaper actually tries to give him back the painting and says, this is yours. I held on to it because of everything, but because it's yours, I need to give it back. And Goblin's like, keep it because it's actually yours. Mm-hmm. You were the one who painted it. Oh. And so they kind of just have this moment of it's just an understanding basically between the two.
Yeah.
So then Reaper actually meets with the woman Reaper who met with Sunny and shook her hand and started to find out past. Yes.
I was just going to say, I like that he says it's your regret in your sin and your longing, because we have Goblin's regret, longing, and sin in the sword. We have Sunny's regret, longing, and sin in the ring, and we have Reaper's regret, longing, and sin in the painting.
And so they all have their own that they have to hold on
to.
But
interestingly enough, I don't feel that EunTak has that.
No. I wouldn't think so.
Mm-mm. Not the way she's lived her life, at least.
Reaper meets the woman Reaper who met with Sunny and, started to learn who she was, who Reaper was, all this information. And Reaper just kind of informs her, the biggest sin that you have to commit a big sin to become a reaper, and the biggest sin that you can commit is throwing out your own life, and that's how you become a vessel to escort souls, basically. And he even tells her, he's like, I kind of had a suspicion that you met with Praktunun. Like, I know that you know who I really am. But at the same time, like, I'm sorry that I used your hands to take my life. It's like, I'm asking for your forgiveness in that, but I also hope that you can forget everything and just do this job to atone for it, but then that way you can be free of any guilt after the fact.
So I was trying to understand his whole point about, you know, when we take our own life and then we become reapers, so we are left to require things like a home, like eating and sleeping and laboring.
Job, right.
All of the mundane things that day-to-day life, you know,
consists of.
He says once you begin to long for those things again is when your punishment can be over. So what does he mean by that? I don't think I quite understood what
I don't know, maybe if it was a translation funky thing too. I don't know, because basically what it is, he's maybe just like laying it out, like we you know, if you throw out your own life when you become a reaper, you have to just do all of these things, and then maybe once you realize it, that's what was, like, that meant something, almost, of like, it's, you know, almost like it's funny how, because they made that comment, I don't remember what episode, several episodes back, with him and his hube, and he's like, why is it that we have to work? Why do we have to find a place to live? Why do we eat when we're hungry? Why do we sleep when we're tired? And I think it's supposed to be ways to remind them of the humanity that they threw away.
Yeah.
I don't know, there could be more to it that I don't understand, and...
No, that makes sense to me. Maybe I'm too tired to think about it critically right now, but I think that makes sense to me. Basically, like, part of their punishment is realizing that, like you said, there was significance in that. And also, like, they have each other in a weird sort of way. Anyway. Okay. I accept your explanation.
Thanks. Your turn.
So EunTak is wrapping up, having, you know, prepared a meal for her aunt. I love this scene so much.
It was so good.
And then she says, you know, I need to go out, so here's dinner, enjoy it. And then her aunt's like, what, did you get like a boyfriend or something? And EunTak doesn't really say anything. But then her aunt just kind of snipes at her and says, well, don't end up a single mother like your mom. And EunTak just spins around and is like, you need to go. You've already taken advantage of me enough, and you're a ghost now. You need to move on. And at that moment, I was like, oh, snap. She's a ghost.
There's
that makes
a reason
so
why
much
her
sense.
kids don't talk to her anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Which, culturally speaking, I think would be kind of sad, because it means that they're not honoring her in her death. You know what I mean?
They have no respect. And
like the way that Goblin every year would go back and light the lanterns for Wang Yo and Kim Sun.
Right.
They're obviously not honoring her. But anyway. So, of course, the aunt is just like, no, you needed to bring me the bank books. This is your fault that I'm stuck here on Earthside because I wanted that money. And she goes to smack her again. And right as she brings her hand down to like actually hit EunTak, there's a hand that just like is like, no.
Not today.
And we see it's the ghosty Oni, and she's just like, you know, I really treasured that child, so you need to keep your hands to yourself here, ma'am.
Knock it off.
And she's like, she just grabs her and she's like, do you want to come with me? And then EunTak is like, wait,
hold on,
I'm not ready for you to fulfill your
whatever it
whatever
is,
longing,
grudge.
whatever you need to do, your unfinished business, like hang on. And so I just think how wonderfully selfless it was for that Ghostie to, like, in her final act of life or whatever you want to call it, is choosing to protect EunTak after all this time. But
I love that she says, I have good chemistry with bad wenches.
Yeah,
I need a sparring partner.
I need to know what this backstory is, because we don't know her backstory. We don't know what her unfinished business is.
Bad.
And I actually was wondering, I was like, that kind of sucks for her. They're not going to let her, move on. And then when this happened, I was like, oh, that's a really good way to wrap up her story. But EunTak, the Unnie thanks her, for everything, just being a friend, honestly.
Yeah.
And EunTak is like, can you just wait a second before you go? And she looks at her hand and she says, thank you for raising me well. I really hope that in our next life we can meet under better circumstances and have a relationship. And then her aunt is just like, I hope I never see you again. And then EunTak just looks at the Unnie and is just like, yeah, you can go now.
It's time now.
And then we see her grab her by the collar and out the wall they go.
So that actress that plays her aunt
Yes.
is in many K-dramas.
Uh-huh.
She's, an aunt, a mom,
Yeah.
a teacher. Like, I really have enjoyed her as an actress.
Yeah.
And there is actually a video from, is it the first? I think it's the first and second episode when she's, second episode maybe, third even, when she's beating EunTak with the magazine from Canada. And it's the behind the scenes. And she's like, going to, and they cut, and she just grabs the actress, or EunTak, and she just is like, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Keep going. She's like, are you okay? Was that too hard? And she's like, no, you need to hit me harder. Like,
method acting.
Well, she's like, if you do this, this, and this, like, I will be okay. Like, but she was like, I don't know that I can do that. Like, you're just like, so like, that's how like, she's a great actress when she's just like,
and I mean, you have.
Right. And she's just like, are you okay? I'm so sorry. Like, because she's like grabbing her and hugging her, and she's like,
that's so cute.
And so I'll have to find the video and send it to you, because it just kind of, oh, you're a good person in real life. Respect.
I love that. So Reaper has asked EunTak to come to the house. He has something to give her, and she's like, is it a note with my name on it?
Do I have to take it?
And he kind of like soothes her worries. He soothes her worries, but he still himself is like, you're not in the clear yet. But she's just like, I really have accepted the fact that it's coming. I'm a human. I'm going to die anyway.
Right.
It could be tomorrow. It could be in 50 years. I was just curious. And so she has decided that, every day is going to be like my last for this reason, because I am a miscellaneously omitted and I am on borrowed time. So Reaper tells her, your life is already beautiful, which is really sweet.
I love Reaper so much.
And then he presents her with a box, and she opens it to find a wedding bouquet. And I don't know if that was made out of buckwheat flowers.
I think so.
I think it was. I could not tell.
I'm going with buckwheat flowers.
I would assume it was, because that would be a really good, like,
full circle. Yeah.
And then he just says, congratulations. It's such a good.
It's so sweet.
Their relationship, I think, will be forever be one of my favorites in this story.
Oh, definitely.
But we cut to the wedding, and back to that whole like private moments, intimate moments. It is just them in the buckwheat field, in their tux, and in the dress. She has like a crown of flowers on her head.
She's so pretty.
She's so beautiful, and again, in just the most simple, like timeless looking way. It is not flashy. It is not bells and whistles. It is just two people in love, looking their best and professing their love to the world. But he says, and until death splits us apart, every word you say, no matter what, I do. And then she repeats the same thing. Even if death splits us apart, every word you say, no matter what, I do. And then they just smile at each other.
Mm-hmm. That's what I want for my wedding vows. Make it simple to the point.
Let's eat cake.
Yeah, so they have their wedding dinner, and so Goblin and EunTak are cooking together, and they're talking about like what they've made, and the table's being set, and you know they have DeokHwa and CEO Kim. They're sitting there, and Reaper comes and he sits down, and he's holding 2 bottles of champagne. He's like, it's between like, was it like 5 or 7 or 7 or 9 Celsius for the right temperature, and he just like sits there and focuses, and DeokHwa's just like, stop. And CEO Kim's just going,
this is normal.
okay, And he just like clears his throat and just is like, okay. And DeokHwa's just like, I feel drunk and I haven't even had a drink yet. Like, ah. And so then Goblin comes over and he places something down on the table, and he has heard DeokHwa say he feels drunk, and he opens the fridge with his powers and gets a hangover drink. And DeokHwa's just like, hello, person over here. And CEO Kim's trying real hard, and EunTak comes over and she's like, are you okay? Like, you don't look so good. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm okay. I'm fine.
Hasn't he passed out by this point?
No, then he passes out.
Okay.
He passes out, and he's like in shock. And DeokHwa hates his life.
He really does.
He's like, I don't want to be here anymore.
It sucks being the protector and the cleanup person.
Well then, and this could just be a cultural thing. It is not happening at mine because I would feel so uncomfortable. And so they just kind of slowly clap, quietly sing a song. And so EunTak's like, no, I can't sing. And Goblin's like, let's go, let's sing. And they start singing, and I was like, yeah, I would leave.
And again, DeokHwa's just like,
I'm out.
This is awful.
I don't want to be here. And even, like, Reaper is just like, did you have to start singing? Really? But then that night, Goblin and EunTak are laying in bed, and he's just kind of, like, patting her head, and she's, you know, they just get to be like, I love you, and just like, also, I'm really tired now, so I'm gonna go to sleep.
Best wedding night ever.
I think technically that already happened for them.
This is true.
Canada!
What happens in Canada?
Well, you know. So the next day, EunTak is leaving work. She tells, her coworker, I have to meet a guest. She's going to go see her hubby. And at the same time, we see Goblin is walking down the street, and he has a bag full of groceries. And
I will not lie to you, that is the exact moment where I knew everything was going to happen and ruin my day.
Yeah.
When I saw him, like, groceries. And I'm like, I've never seen you carry groceries before, except for when it was the epic, like, sing with the green onion, you know?
2 bags per person.
So much green onion, but honestly, I would need that much.
Can we come to that party?
But no, I wasn't sure until I saw him carrying the bag of groceries. I'm like, this is too mundane for the last episode of the show. And I was like, I'm going to text Ashley.
How much I hate her right now.
I'm not mad.
I'm just disappointed. I'll take that. But Reaper's with his hubei, and they're looking at these name cards, and it's supposed to be for this kindergarten bus, and so it's all these kids. And Reaper's just going, yeah, this job really is a punishment. Like, I don't want to do this. So, but then his hubei gets a phone call, and he's like, I'll be right back. And EunTak actually is pulled up, and she just, calls out to him, waves at him. And he smiles, waves, and she drives off. And then his hubei comes back and says, we are supposed to get rid of all those name cards. Their fate has been changed. And Reaper just kind of is like, oh, okay, cool. And then instant crap, basically. And the quote is, because a certain death for which no name card arrives, a death that cannot be predetermined. And we see that EunTak has answered a phone call while driving, because they do. They're a lot better at that than we are. We are all like, hey, yeah, on the phone. And they have it connected to their car and they push a button. Mm-hmm. You better not have anything private that you want to say in case there's people. It's like those, have you seen that video? Hey, I'm with Mom's in the car and you're on speakerphone.
No, but that's amazing. Want to let you know.
I'll have to find it and send it to you. Because there's moments where I'll be like, I'm not on speakerphone, right? And just to make sure so I can say something, if it's like, surprise for the kids or whatever. But it's, so she's using her steering wheel and she's talking to Goblin. And we see up the road, up a hill, we see that a truck has come out of gear and has started to just roll down the hill. And EunTak in this moment realizes what is going to happen. That these kids are going to get hit by this truck. And if she goes any farther, like, that will happen unless she stops herself. And Goblin is talking to her on the phone, and she doesn't really hear him because she's going, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? She's starting to panic, like, I must be crazy. And she puts her car basically on park, and the truck slams into EunTak and just takes out her car. And we just hear her kind of like thinking in her head, now that I think about it, it was a perfect day. When I woke up, I was in his embrace. I made the fried egg perfectly, too. It was a satisfactory live broadcast. All of those perfections must have been to lead me to this moment, so I won't be late. It wouldn't have worked out if I was late for a minute or a second. This was my destiny. And we see a wine glass shatter, and Goblin is panicking because he's heard this insane chaos going on over the line. And he's asking EunTak where she is, and he's running out the door. And we have EunTak, and she's thinking back to presumably the night before when Goblin is telling her that he loves her, and she just says, I do too. And then we hear Reaper say, and he's talking to his hube, a human. What am I, my cat? A human sacrifice is a domain that God cannot predetermine and foresee. No. Sorry. This is a moment, or that is a moment. I'm just going to start the whole quote over.
I'm good. I'm good.
The human got you.
The human. Why did you choose to drink right now? Okay, you're good.
I'm not.
You're not me.
A human sacrifice. Oh no. This is going to have to be a no video.
It's okay. Okay. I'm good.
Because I'm going to make you do the worst part, because I don't
know.
No. I mean, I'll help.
Okay, good.
A human sacrifice is a domain that God cannot predetermine and foresee. I can't do it.
A rock reverse. Okay, I'm sorry. We need to get through this. I'll shut up.
It's something only a human can decide on. And then we see that the name card suddenly has a name on it, and it's EunTak's name. And then we see that EunTak is actually standing, and she's kind of observing everything that's going on around. There's, like, all of the bystanders of, like, the kindergarten bus and the adults, and I believe at this point there's, like, ambulances and fire trucks. And then Reaper comes up, and he calls for her. He says her, the date of birth, and then says, is this you? And she just looks at him, and she's like, yeah. And she's like, I just kept asking myself why I was doing that. But I kept doing, like, I did it. Mm-hmm. She's like, but I was really scared. And then we actually see that it cuts to the news being, like, broadcast kind of in the area and telling the story of everything that's going on. And there's a couple ladies that are sitting there watching it. And the one lady just says she must have been an angel because what person just willingly places themselves in front of
A truck.
a truck. So.
Okay. That's why I was laughing, so I avoid this part. It is now the tea house. And EunTak is sitting there as Reaper is making preparations. And she's complimenting the house, saying, I kind of always wondered what it was exactly
Right, what it looked
that
like.
you did, what it looked like. And she asks him, is it true that you have 4 lives?
Right.
And he kind of nods, and she goes, well, which life am I on? And he said, this is your first. And she goes, what a relief. Because now
she had
she
told
gets
Sunny
to,
that,
yeah,
too.
she gets to live the rest of her lives meeting Goblin again. The door opens, and there is a stunned-looking Goblin. Stop it.
I can't.
I'm gonna cry too. Okay, so Reaper kind of steps away to give him their moment again, and Goblin just starts to sob. And this sucks.
Yeah.
EunTak just lets him hold her, and she kind of like holds his face again and just says, remember that, the living one of us has to continue, and you're going to be sad sometimes, but there are a lot of reasons to continue to be happy and to be strong, and that's how you can honor my life. And so he just brings her into an embrace, and then she's like, how could you do this to me after all of this that we've been through? After everything we've been through, you've done this to me. And just continues to break down. So now she asks, I just want to look at you one last time. And so he does, and he's trying to hold it in, but he can't. But she says, you still owe me a wish. And she says, I'm going to ask for it now. And she says, you shouldn't be too sad. You shouldn't hurt too much. And I will be back to meet you. Please don't make it rain too much, just so you don't make the citizens uncomfortable.
Right.
And he says, that's 3 wishes, not just 1. And he says, how am I going to continue living without you? And she says, it'll just be a short little bit, I promise. This time I will come to you, and I will come find you. In the next life, I will be able to live a long life and stay by your side for a long time. I will beg them to let me do that. Then she asks Reaper to look after Goblin after everyone else has gone, and he just nods. And then he hands her the cup of tea, but she just says no, she doesn't need it. So then EunTak, she says she has to go, and he just, leans into the sorrow even harder. And she says, it'll be quick, I'll go there and I will be back. And he says, you have to, even if it takes 100 years, even if it takes 200 years, I'll be here waiting. And then she just smiles at him and lets go of his hand and walks to the door. And then she pushes it open and says, I'll see you soon, and walks up the stairs.
Ugh.
I had to fight the tears back the whole time. I was like, one of us has to get through this so we can just get over it.
Because it gets better.
Does it?
Yes. So Reaper is actually crying. He's watching all of this. He loves EunTak. I can't do it.
Stop, you're gonna make me cry.
I can't.
I'm
That's who I am.
Crier. Oh my gosh.
This would have to be a no video one. So Reaper cries. And he's just watching Goblin. Like, Goblin's gone. He has collapsed. And we see him at a different point, writing out on a piece of paper, the Goblin's bride, who loved and was loved, rests here. And he actually goes to the ocean where she had summoned him for the first time. And he looks at the paper and then uses his own blue flame and lights the paper on fire. I can't look at you. It's going to be so much worse. But then we hear Reaper saying, it was a very long rainy season after that day. And then we actually cut to this.
Ridiculous.
She knew what she was doing when she wrote this.
I know. I hate it.
It's
ridiculous.
It is. We actually see the woman in red. She's kind of running like this little food truck.
Mm-hmm.
And the rain has kind of stopped. And she just goes, I wonder if she's met her mom yet. Kind of, and like hoping, because she's like, I loved both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we actually see these two young schoolgirls. I say young, they're probably middle school, junior high.
Mm-hmm.
And they are eating snacks at the truck. And the one friend comments on her other friend's barrette.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, that's not even your style. It doesn't even look that great. And she's like, yeah, well, it's from my dad. And I love my dad whether he's here or not. And it's actually the barrette from the man who was sitting there listening to the woman in red tell the story of Goblin. And the woman in red is just kind of staring at them. And they kind of get like defensive, like, what are you looking at, old woman? They're little brats.
Yeah.
But she just goes, kids are scary.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yep.
Mad facts.
I love her response, though.
Yeah, she's like, you're just so adorable at that age. And I was just wondering and looking at you, wondering how it could be more lovable.
And they're kind of like, oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And then she goes, you want more fish cakes? Yeah, okay. And it's very sweet. But then we actually see Goblin walking. And he's walking to all these places that he and EunTak walked and, have memories at together. And he's wearing her scarf. And we see him wearing it through the seasons and through the years. And we actually see, I think it's the bookshop.
Mm-hmm.
And we see him walk past it. And then we see vines cover it. And it's 30 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually see Reaper has come to the bridge. And it's at night. And he's just kind of looking around. I mean, he's been at this for a long time. And he's with his hubei the next day, and his hubei slides an envelope across the table, and he's like, this is the last card you have to do. And he just makes the comment, he's like, my punishment has finally come to its end.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes back home, and he packs up everything, he cleans everything up, and we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
He looks at his coat and shakes its arm. He's like, oh, you're so cute. But then he picks up his hat and he's like, well, I won't have to dry clean this anymore. And he's just kind of relieved, but also well, what do I do now? After this is what I've done for hundreds of years at this point. But then he looks at this card that it's his last card, and we see the name Kim Son, 68 years old. And he starts to cry, and he goes, she wasn't supposed to tell me the news. And so he goes downstairs, and we see Goblin kind of just waiting there for him. And he's like, well, this is my last one. I'm going to be going. And Goblin just looks at him, and he's like, I want you to be happy. I hope you are happy. Mm-hmm. And Reaper goes, don't make it rain after I'm gone. Also, the laundry is in the wash. When it's done, can you please hang it? And then when you're done hanging it, I need you to come to the tea house. I'm going to break the rules one more time.
I'm leaving anyway. What can they do?
Yeah, well, come at me. It's my last one. But then we see Sunny walk into the tea shop. And they sit together, and she asks him, if he's been okay. And he just goes, I've missed you. And he asks for her hand, and he puts the jade ring on her finger and tells her, I just wanted to put this on you right one time. The last time I put it on you was so harsh and so mean, and I didn't. That's not how I wanted to do that. And she just looks at him, and she's like, yeah, I missed you too. And he was like, yeah, I knew you would. They both kind of have that moment with each other, yeah, I knew you would miss me. But then he tells her, you are the last soul, and it is her third life. And she asks him, what life are you on? And he goes, I don't know. I'm not sure. But then he tells her to look outside, and we see Goblin standing outside the window so they can, see each other one last time. And Goblin just makes the comment, that dummy's still not looking at me. Like, of course, she's only looking at him. I mean nothing. But she tells him, I'm glad I got to see you one more time. And he just tells her to be happy.
My ugly.
Be happy, my ugly. Ugh. So she and Reaper actually stand up after Reaper takes Sunny's hand, and then they go through the door, and then they go up the stairs together. So then Goblin is kind of just wandering for a while. We don't know how long he wanders. At this point, he's back in his buckwheat field, and he's like, I've been left again by my friend, by my sister, by the woman I love. Because he had told Reaper, when Reaper told him, don't make it rain too much, he was like, my vocation is long time separation. I'm really good at this. So one day he's sitting on a bench, just kind of staring out at the ocean. And a man comes and sits down beside him. And he starts eating a sandwich, and he tells, Goblin, oh, cheer up. And he actually, shares the sandwich with him. And he's like, do you know why they cut sandwiches? Why they cut them in half? Because they're meant for sharing. So just take it and be thankful. Just accept it. And he's like, life might be hard, but we can do it because life is beautiful. And Goblin just kind of looks at him and just takes the sandwich, and the man finishes his half of the sandwich, and he's like, good luck, you can do this, basically, it's gonna be okay. And he gets up to leave, and Goblin goes, actually, can you go that way? There's somebody that's gonna need your help. And this is my payment for you giving me the sandwich. And we see that CEO Kim is now Chairman Kim, and he is standing in front of his car. He's also gray, and he's probably, what would we say, 70s, 80s, 80s. But he's having car trouble, and we just see his driver, and he's like, have you called the insurance company yet? And he goes, well, no, because you jumped out, and you just started looking at it. And he's like, you just jumped in. And this man walks up, and he goes, well, do you want me to take a look? And he's actually been a mechanic for 20 years. And so CEO Kim's just like, I guess I was supposed to meet you today. And kind of just knowing that he was probably sent by Goblin.
Well, it's time for Yushin J to end and start a new era of identities.
Somewhere else,
because the house is packed, the furniture is sheeted, and Goblin is getting ready to leave town. And as he's doing this, he happens across this film set, and he notices in the car he sees Sunny and Reaper. And they have the same faces, but they are different people. And he just kind of smiles to himself, thinking, yeah, my vision was right.
They're together,
and I hope they're happy. He says that he made a wish when he lit one of the last lanterns years ago, and he said, I hope that my sister and my king would meet again in the next life, and that in that life they could be happy together. So in this lifetime, they don't actually remember their previous lives, and they're just kind of pick at each other, like a couple of people that have mutual interests do.
Fantastic. The flirting is hilarious.
This was a 5-minute K-drama. I kid you not.
It was we needed that 5-minute K-drama.
Yeah, we did.
It was
after the complete obliteration that they sent our way the past 30 minutes. But it's when they're on set, she is out of the car, and he's out of the car, and he's starts to arrest her very roughly.
Aggressive.
Yeah, and she's like, what are you doing? I'm the detective. That's the criminal over there. And he goes, well, I couldn't tell the difference. You look like you're dressed like a criminal.
Undercover.
And she's like talking at the director like, seriously, you're gonna have this guy?
Who do you think you are?
But the director basically is like, he's here to consult. You really need to just like make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And so Reaper introduces himself as EunTak.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's also a homicide detective in this life.
Yeah.
That's why he's on set, to teach them how to do anything related to the law.
Yeah. But it shows them arriving at a hotel, motel, kind of a dive. And Sunny is like trying to explain to the woman behind the desk, like, I'm supposed to be on set. This is super embarrassing because I'm one of the actresses. They were supposed to get me a room, but they didn't. And this guy here, he's my stylist. And he's just like, Yep, I'm a stylist.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, we really need a room tonight. And the woman goes, well, I only have one. And they just kind of like pause. And she's like, well, this is just really just so embarrassing. There should have been rooms scheduled, booked. And she goes, we'll take it. And then as they're walking away, we see another couple walk up to the desk behind them.
No, they're running to the desk.
Yeah. And they're like, do you have any rooms available? And the woman goes, I just have one. and Sunny just goes, pretend you didn't hear that. And he grabs her hand in his and he goes, hear what?
I don't know what you're
and
talking
they
about.
walk up the door.
La-la.
Oh my goodness. But then there is another encounter where they are together. And it's back to Sunny being like, what are we? It's the DTR. It's the define the relationship talk.
Let's go.
And she's like, why are we not officially dating? Why have you not officially asked me to be your girlfriend or said that you like me? Like, all of my friends are saying I liked you first. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that's just kind of embarrassing at this point.
I'm an actress.
I am an actress, sir. And he goes,
the audacity.
Well, your friends are wrong. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, I liked you first. She goes, no, I liked you first. He goes, no, you didn't. And she is so tickled by this fact. But she takes this as her permission to have him hold out his hands, and he does. And she slips this little gray bracelet over his arm, and it has a little charm of a lion on it. And she says, or he says it's like a handcuff or something.
No, she says, think of this as a handcuff because you stole my heart.
Because you stole my heart. And he goes, isn't this considered a bribe? And she goes, well, I guess you'll have to arrest me too because I have one as well. And she shows the matching bracelet.
You're so cute. But I also love
cute.
Because she even tells him, like, I heard your nickname was the Violet Grim Reaper.
Yes.
Honey, if you knew.
Apropos. So he just stands up in the middle of the cafe and, like, kisses her.
No shame.
PDA in Korea is like a no-no. And so for this
get it, boy.
level of, like, passion, you're just like, whoa. And then Sunny, in true Sunny fashion, says, this is our day one. Yep.
You love
So
Sunny.
sweet.
Sunny's the best.
All right, you gonna finish this out?
I can finish this out.
Let's go.
Okay, so Goblin has arrived to Canada, our second home in this show. And he's, has his big suite, and he's being told by this butler, can I do anything else for you? Do you need anything else? And he's like, no, I'll be fine. And he said, the butler's like, by the way, there's going to be this big bunch of students that have come over for Korea on a field trip. Like, avoid these roads. They're going to be everywhere. And he's like, okay. And he actually comes to his memorial stones, and he has a book. And he's just sitting there. And then in the background, we just see this student walking on the hill behind him. And we watch the wind blow these seeds, dandelion seeds, out of the stem of the flower that she's holding, and it pans up, and it's EunTak again. And she's a high school student now, and she just smiles and just goes, I found you. And she has the memories of her past life, of being asked, what would you choose? and of her saying, I would choose a sad love. And so she says sad love out loud, and Goblin hears the word sad love. And of course, he's going to know what those mean. And he just stands up and turns around, and she walks up to him and goes, do you know who I am? And he just tells her, you're my first and my last goblin bride. And she just kind of looks at him and smiles because she's like, yeah, I have all these memories. I know this.
Yeah.
And they just kind of end just looking at each other and becoming reacquainted with one another. Because, yes, she has all those memories, but she's also this different person. And they're just, like, looking at each other, and they both have tears in their eyes. And then it just pans back to them staring at each other. And that is how we end our entire show. An episode. And I knew Kim would not like that ending very much. It's too open.
Character of the hour.
Oh.
Character of the show.
Character of the... I don't know. I love Reaper so much. He's my... I think he's probably Reaper. Because he...
Got that second lead syndrome.
Oh, so hard. But he's so deadpan at the beginning, and he stays deadpan for a lot of it. But he is so integral to every single person in the show. He is important for Goblin. They become brothers, and then they find out that they were brothers. He's important to Sunny, but he doesn't know why. He's important to EunTak, even though she's supposed to be this person that he's supposed to turn in and chase. He loves this girl. That is someone he wants to protect. He's in, like, DeokHwa. They have their fun little relation. I just love Reaper. I think DeokHwa would probably be my second, though, because he's such a brat. He's adorable. But I love all of them because the writer of the show did such a great job at making every relationship so important and so different that it wasn't...
It was never boring.
No.
And sometimes you can feel that way when you get to those B plots where you're like, I want to get to, like...
Can we just...
moving the plot forward. I never felt that way. Like, Sunny and EunTak, gold. EunTak and Reaper, gold. EunTak and DeokHwa, even though we didn't get very much of it.
I would have liked more of that.
It was so good. It was just all so dynamic, and it felt organic, and like it was its own thing every time.
Well, and we even said that, or like however many episodes ago, of they're a family and they're relationships that we grow with them rather than established.
We're just jumping in the middle, and then maybe we don't care as much.
Right. Who would be your character of the hour and show?
Yeah, that was a hard question. That was stupid of me. I think my character of the show, EunTak, because she was so selfless.
But with all of her circumstances, too.
Yeah, even though, I mean, she had that juvenile sense of, like, where's my $5,000? You know, as all kids kind of do. But when it came down to it, she was looking out for her ghosty friends. She was placing herself in literal danger, trying to help fulfill their unfinished business, like on rooftops. And she was always trying to put, like, Goblin and Reaper, keeping them in mind, like keeping their best interests in mind. So it kind of mixed with the youthfulness, which is what I liked about her character being flawed in that way.
Right.
But at her core, she just loved people and wanted to help them.
She loved her people.
Yeah. And then up until her ultimate demise, you see that she's like, I don't know why I did this, but we do know because that's just who she was as a person.
Right. Her true character does not change.
Yeah, which is why everyone loved her so much, which is why Reaper was like, I'm not reaping this girl.
I can't do it.
And DeokHwa treated her like a little sister, and they cared for her so well. So I just like that up until the end, she was who she was. And yeah, final thoughts.
Well, I've seen this enough times that I mean, obviously there's a reason that I was like, Kim, we have to watch this show. I really like this show. I think you're going to like it too. Because it is a full story that, like, don't get me wrong, I loved our show that we did last season. I love What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. But there were definite moments where you're just like, okay.
Get through it.
Please, can we be done with this?
Well, like we had talked about, it got redundant in certain ways. And yes, there was some of that happened in this show too, to where it took a minute to get the momentum, but once it took off, I mean, it was gone.
It was, and it didn't take a very long time.
It took less than half of the show.
Right. But then it was continually evolving into story plots and lines that were not necessarily expected.
Yeah. I think looking at it in hindsight, I'm able to see that this was them establishing love for these characters in a very mundane sort of way, to where you've lived your day-to-day life with them.
Right.
And then it takes off into the world of the mystic, and you're just like, this sucks for them.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, I love the acting, the actors that they cast for the show. You could not pick better people to play these characters. And they did so well, and
to have that level of intersecting chemistry across the entire cast.
Yeah.
That is so unique.
Not normal.
No. And there's a reason, like, why Touch Your Heart features.
We will watch this show at one point.
Yeah, that might be one of our mini reviews, but
there we go.
There's
that's 3
obviously
years
a
later.
Reason. Yeah. They call
so what are your final thoughts? I threw a lot at you.
I feel like I am still unsatisfied with the ending.
That's valid.
I think that after all of the tragedy that they wrote into this narrative, they should have just ended it happy, to be honest.
You needed happy?
Well, I think everybody needed happy. And I know that it seems like the ending was happy, but she's gonna die again.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought for sure that when he pulled the sword out that he would be done having his goblin
power,
immortality. And the fact that they didn't get rid of that just complicates it. So I think that they either should have killed them off together, like they did Reaper and Sunny, or they needed to allow him to lose his immortality. She would not die in a freaking car accident. And then they could just live their life together.
Yeah.
And grow silver and gray.
Except the problem is she was still a miscellaneously omitted person, and she was destined to, during the 9s, have a higher chance of. But I don't know if Goblin's immortal now. Maybe he can be killed now.
Well, he still has his powers.
Yeah, but if he wanted to die, but there's a lot of open
for interpretation.
I would assume. I think, at least.
Okay, well then she doesn't drink the Oblivion tea, and she's born 2 more times, and he's not there.
Unless he lives through all of 4, and then at the end of her 4th life.
But he literally waited 30 years for her to be born this time. This time,
yeah.
What if it takes 800 for the next?
Open for interpretation is how we're putting it, and I know you
it.
don't like that.
I hate everything about that. I'm going to be...
Okay, other than the ending.
Fixing the ending in my brain.
Okay.
Tonight while I fall asleep.
Okay, well, other than the ending.
Like I said, it's just a really dynamic story. An incredibly dynamic cast. Like you said, I don't think that they could have casted it any better than they did.
Would you watch again? Not anytime soon.
Will be watching it again because I just want to watch it and enjoy it. And to also catch the things that I wasn't catching because I was so busy trying to follow certain parts of the narrative.
And look up what flower language is.
Well,
Hey, I love it. I'm here for it.
I will say the second time that I watched part of episode 14, when she's knocking on Sunny's door, I noticed there was an ADT sign.
Isn't that great?
I'm like, oh man, the things you miss when you're typing furiously.
True.
Overall, I really enjoyed the story.
Good.
I enjoyed the storytelling. I felt that the pacing came into its own. Mm-hmm. I didn't like it at first, but by the end, I think they were doing a good job. Again, I think that just sometimes a happy ending needs to be a happy ending, and you don't need to throw the drama plot twist into it. But it somehow worked in this enough to where I'm not angry enough to not watch it again.
Fair.
Cheese in the trap. All right. Well,
Fair enough.
that was episode 16 and the finale of
season 2.
Season 2.
Oh my goodness.
We're going to go on a short break, but we will be back next
Very excited.
time with My ID's
Gangnam
Beauty. And I will be returning the favor to Ashley. This is one she has not seen.
You told me there's not quite the amount of trauma.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that was my bad.
There's like no trauma.
Okay, so
Which
I owe
will
you
be-
some therapy.
Yeah, you do. You're going to have to pay for my
Okay.
counseling sessions. But I'm excited. It's kind
gonna
of
be
a
fun.
fun one. I don't mind juggling between the traumatic and the...
Hey,
Fun.
that's what we do.
I bring the fun to the table. You bring
The
the
trauma.
the drama.
The drama. Well,
I'm okay with that. I don't... If it's a good story, I mean, I'll...
hey, I've gotten you hooked on a few already. Bad and Crazy.
Bad and Crazy was good.
But also we will potentially be doing a second show at the same time, depending on what a poll looks like.
Yeah.
And it would be options between Business Proposal, Her Private Life, and Dr. Slump. Right?
Yes.
Is that what we decided on?
I still haven't finished Dr. Slump.
I have 2 episodes left of Dr. Slump, and I'm like,
You haven't finished it still?
I haven't finished it still. And I'm like, I just need to just sit down and watch it. But I've been watching so many other ones that
It was an easy watch. I liked their chemistry.
for Dr. Slump.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's
good.
been. Did you finish it?
No,
No. Oh, just
I'm only like
four
four episodes in.
Yeah, the actors that they have for that they're fantastic, and I nenever related more to a K-drama, like with my own personal life of like being in a slump, and I was like, because like one of the lines is literally he just was like, sometimes when you're at the bottom, you just need to stay there for a while, just rest, and I was like, okay, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you, Park Hyung-sik.
Whatever you say.
But be on the lookout on Spotify for a vote,
Yes.
because I think that's probably the best place that we can.
Easiest, yeah.
Yep.
And we'll
see you soon.
be back soon. Holy smokes. How did we do that?
This is unreal. Yeah, season 2. Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. We'd love to connect with you on our Instagram at The KDrama Show. For more behind-the-scenes content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us on The KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim, and we'll see you next time.